Good morning, Essex County College family. Thanks for tuning in to Virtual Cafe. This is episode 19, Egypt 103. We're back with our favorite doctor in the world, Dr. Spellman, and he is going to be taking us on our third adventure to Egypt, and we're going to learn a bunch of stuff that we didn't know before. Good morning, Doc Spellman. What are we learning about today?
Oh, good morning. Well, as you said, Joe, we are proud to work with Student Life. It's nowhere like Essex County College. It's the opportunity center of the whole community. And to be a part of that, a small part of that, is very important. This morning, we want to finish up on our discussion and appreciation of Egypt. Remember, this was an ingenious group of Black people who lived in very hot climates along the Egyptian, Ethiopian, even going into the Middle East. And yet, it's the longest lasting civilization that has ever lived. And we talked earlier about our experiences with the pyramids. If you recall, we talked about how the pyramids were built. And last week we talked about took 200,000 men 20 years to build one pyramid, and it had 1,900,000 200 ton blocks that they had to haul up, and they did it with logs, and they would put water on the logs. But the key that we said last week, if you recall, was in organization. No one could have accomplished that without precision planning and organization. So we give and take our hats off to the Egyptians, but anyone who does construction knows you have to have organization. And so we admire their end product, which is the Great Pyramids, which have lasted. It's the last, we call them the 7 wonders of the world. That's the only one that still exists. But today, we want to move on. We also pointed out to you last week that the Egyptians gave us much in embalming. They believed in life after death, so therefore they believed in creating a mummy when a person died. And when they did that, they would take certain organs of the body and put them in what we call canoptic jars. But the mummy had to be there for them to reach the afterlife. And so they had to put a permanency on embalming. And I told you, I saw a man who had been dead 3,500 years. He looked like he was sleeping because they were experts in embalming. I also said last week and taught you how the Egyptians created the first paper out of a plant called papyrus. If you go out to Short Hills Mall today, you'll see a store out there named Papyrus, because papyrus was the first first paper. And one of the great museums and libraries, it's called Ephesus, burned down, and also in Alexandria of the world, because it had so many papyrus illustrations and writings. And then when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls is another subject that was found in Israel in 1947 in the caves. But it's really the Old Testament written in Hebrew on papyrus paper. And we wouldn't have the book of Isaiah and a few other biblical books that we have, the whole Old Testament, with the exception of the book called Esther. But today, we're excited about 3 things we wanted to finish up with Egypt on, but I want to give you a preview of next week's discussion. And next week, we want to talk about the subject of turning back is not an option. And we want to talk about how goal setting and setting goals and never turning around is so important. So we want you to tune in for our next discussion, because I'm supposed to be an old man, but I'm as motivated and ready to learn. I have a thirst for learning like a little young child. And so therefore, I want you to have that, and you're going to need that. all you young people who are facing challenges we've never faced before. You're going to have to acquire skills that you didn't have before. And one of them is to be able to find what you know, when you need to know it, and when you need to use it. So that's on next week. I want to go to a discussion of King Tut at this time. And I want you to see that he was a person who was a pharaoh who lived during what we call the New Kingdom. So we talked about the genius of the Egyptian people, and there were other civilizations that were genius, and even you should never forget the United States of America. We're exceptional. We produce some great, great people. If I could write a book on it, I saw this morning, we are what you call exceptional. We have a lot of people who have done things. And a man died, Dr. Salk. He was the person that invented the Salk vaccine for polio. People were rich people. Franklin Roosevelt had polio and took an hour for him to put his pants on. And yet Dr. Salk made that contribution. Edison, Ford. There's so many people who have contributed to the world. So America's right there with them. Greece, Rome, Britain, China, all these civilizations, but I never want Egypt to be left out because they made such a significant one. But today we want to talk about Tutankhamun. Notice the way we pronounce his name, Tutankhamun. And many people just call him King Tut. And he is famous, not because of his achievements, because he's really famous because of his tomb being found intact. He reigned during what we call the New Kingdom from 1334 to 1324. That's coming back this way, BC. And he became a pharaoh when he was just 9 years old. And then he died when he was 19. So he really was only pharaoh for about 10 years. And many people, they examined his skull. They've gone back and studied the DNA, and they see where there's a mark on his skull. They think he was assassinated. But it's the only tomb found not pillaged or ripped off, if I can put it that way. The professional thieves used to break into the tombs because one believed that in the afterlife, whatever you were in this life, you would be there. So if you were king here, you would be king there. You had to take all your treasures with you. So they would build these big tombs in order for them to house their treasures. And so this tomb was located in what we call the Valley of the Kings. Now the pyramids are near Cairo, but the Valley of the Kings, see, the first in the Old Kingdom, you had the pyramids, and everyone knew inside there was a gold mine of treasures. It's sort of like Fort Knox. If you look at Fort Knox, you know inside. If you saw the picture Goldfinger, you remember all that gold is put into that building. You know, somewhere in that building, there's all kinds of gold. Well, that was the way when you looked at the tombs of the pharaohs, you would find that. And they thought and sought to hide everything. But the had so many break-ins and what have you. So by the time we got to the New Kingdom, those people were building tombs that no one could see in what we call the Valley of the Kings. It is up about 200 miles from Cairo, and it's right off the Nile River. Everything is off the Nile River, but we have the tomb of Tutankhamun. And in November of 1923, a man by the name of Howard Carter discovered it. He had been working, I'll talk about that later, but this is the one example that people use, and this is King Tut. It was a mask that was on his face when they went into his tomb and they lifted him up. And I'm going to show you a few things about that. But this is solid gold. you're looking at a priceless piece of artwork. You're looking at a very heavy piece of artwork. You're looking at something that's in the Egyptian Museum. And he was buried in 3 sarcophagi. Now, sarcophagus is a coffin. So when you say plural, sarcophagi, what do you mean? How can you be in so many coffins? Well, you put one inside the other. So he was buried in 4 different sarcophagi. One time when I was courting and I was in high school, but I used to buy a Valentine's present, and I would get this big box, wrap it up, put a bow on it, and then I would put another box in it, wrap that up, put it inside in another box. So by the time she got to the 3rd box, she was mad. And sometimes at the bottom, you would have a little bracelet there. But that was the way they did. But that's the way this coffin was made. So he looks enormous, but because other coffins fit down inside of this. And look at that. That's exquisite artwork. That's all gold. That's all gold. That's the artists were considered great craftsmen and respected. And so you had his, what we call crook and the flail, which is up in the front here. And you had his mask. And some of you see that he has like an eyeliner. Michael Jackson used to wear eyeliner, but the Egyptians wore eyeliner because it had a function. The sun rays were so bright that the line above the eye helped to break that light, and therefore they didn't go blind because of the sun. So the eyeliner was really like sunglasses, and it would fight some of the sun rays. But this is the gold tomb, and if you notice, here is inside. So can you imagine there are 4 of these, one inside the other. And then he has what is called the crook and the flail, which is a cane, and then he has like a little whip, but that's the mark of a ruler. And then the pharaoh, he was always known by the cobra that was on his head. Let me move a little faster here. So this famous piece of artwork is there, but now this piece on the left, I have right here in my study. I have a piece, it only is that high, but the actual was found in the tomb, and you can see he was a black man. Now on the right, it looks like a woman's hair, but no, that's the boy pharaoh with his what we call crook and flail going across his chest, representing the pharaoh. But notice, and you see his face, that he in fact is what we would call today a black person. Now, there were some key people. Howard Carter, I just mentioned his name. He discovered the tomb, and he did this in 1922, November 25th. And it was financed by what we call a sponsor, the Earl of Carnarvon, and he had a lot of money, but he always wanted to find King Tut's tomb. So he kept giving Howard Carter money, told him it was the last time. And sure enough, someone found a step, and that step they knew was a key. And he came running, and they brought in the Earl of Carnarvon, who was an Egyptologist. A person who specializes in Egyptian study is called an Egyptologist. And he financed the excavations. So he came in, and Carter was going to share it with him, and a mosquito bit him. And from that, he developed a fever and died right there in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
Carter lived near the Nile. He had a house up on top of the hill. And there you see the Nile and you see the boat. But that was Howard Carter's home up on the top of the hill. And he spent many years here looking for the tomb of Tutankhamun. Finally, they found it. And as you can see, that's the top, which the cobra, which represents the king. And to the right is the back of his throne chair. And he's there, the king Tutankhamun is there with his wife. His wife's name was, and you can see it on the screen, and say it after me, Ankhesenamun.
Acacinamum.
Achaemenum. And she was the daughter of Nefertiti. So, and she was there conferring with him. But you're looking at exquisite artwork. Other pieces that were found there, here we have the king. On the left, you see what we call alabaster. Now, alabaster is looks like it's marble, but it is so heavy. And when you have something that's alabaster, I mean, to pick up that piece there, it probably weighs about 300 pounds. It looks like it's marble, but it's just very strong and very heavy. So there you see the king on the left in alabaster, and then on the right, you see his head in clay, the boy king. These are some of the games he played when he was a youngster in the Egyptian Museum. The other person who I just want to mention is a pharaoh by the name of Ramesses II. Now, there was Ramesses I. There were many pharaohs in what we call the New Kingdom. But Ramesses was a great builder, and he built temples, he built monuments, and he built his own tomb. And here you see the exterior in the center of his tomb. And pharaoh means big house. That's what it means. Big
Casa Grande.
Yeah, house. And so when they Bishop Mitchell trying to get you on. I'm untaping. And so when they went to do, and they found, and you can see his tomb. Look out the size of the people. Then look to the left, and you see Pharaoh Ramesses' tomb. Now that's after they had raised it. See, what happened was, it was a matter of people being able to eat, and so they had to flood what we call the Aswan Dam. But if they did that, they would have put the tomb of Ramesses underwater, and no one would be able to see it. So many went to raise money, and they raised, Jacqueline Kennedy was involved, and they raised money to raise that tomb up 200 feet. And there you see it up by, on the Nile River, the Aswan Dam is up there. The other person I wanted to mention as we move forward, a man by the name of Imhotep. Imhotep, I-M-H-O-T-E-P. He was the vizier, or a vizier is it's sort of like a prime minister to the pharaoh. Joseph in the Bible was like a prime minister. He was a vizier to the pharaoh. But Imhotep was a genius. And I wanted you to see just a little short film explanation of him. And then I want you to see a little film explanation of just what was in Tutankhamun's tomb.
Imhotep was born in the 27th century BCE in the city of Memphis in the great civilization of Kemet.
Look at that.
He is considered by some to be the first real person in known history. He was not a conqueror or a king, but an artist and scientist, a physician, an architect, a pyramid builder, and the chief advisor of King Zoser. His name means he who comes in peace, and he is the only Kemite besides Amenhotep to become fully deified, becoming the god of wisdom and medicine. He did so much for Kemetic medicine that later generations worshipped him as a god of knowledge, author of their sciences and their arts, and at the same time he appears to have founded the school of architecture, which provided the next dynasty with the great pyramid builders of history. Imhotep was an indigenous African whose family had migrated from sub-Saharan Africa to settle in the north. Imhotep lived over 4,600 years ago and was the highest official in Kemet during the rule of King Zoser. This king ruled Kemet from around 2686 BCE and was the first ruler of what we now call the Third Dynasty. Imhotep was said to be the architect of King Zoser's burial mound, which was in the form of a stepped pyramid. This was the world's first monumental stone building and was situated at the site that we now call Saqqara in northern Kenya. The step pyramid rose to a height of 204 feet, which was the tallest structure at the time. The surrounding complex included a temple, courtyard, shrines, and living quarters for the priestess, covering an area of 40 acres, and surrounded by a 30-foot high wall. The wall had 13 false doors cut into it, with only one true entrance cut into the southeast corner. Imhotep was skilled in all areas of administration and royal enterprises. Imhotep was also a priest, writer, doctor, and the founder of the Kemetic studies of astronomy. Imhotep himself was a devout follower of Thoth, who was the god of knowledge and thought. Early in his life, he showed high intelligence, and through deep meditation began a quest for higher knowledge. He impressed even the god Thoth, who was eager to spread knowledge to mankind. Imhotep became his greatest student and used his knowledge to improve medicine, technology, and pyramid building among his people. He became beloved not only among his fellow humans, but the Enid as well.
Just look at the work in gold that they discovered. That's called the Rosetta Stone there. We'll talk about that later. When they opened the tomb, look at what they saw.
Wow.
I was hidden until 1923. And the world went wild when they discovered it. See, there was 4 coffins inside of one, or 3 others. So
pretty much everything in that tomb is made out of gold, huh?
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? So
unbelievable.
I want to say that, this is a fantastic thing that we're able to communicate and record. And I wish we had more time, but it's been exciting just to talk about Egypt. We're going to look forward to next week, though, to talk seriously about people and their futures. And I'm talking to you, our precious students at Essex County College. And Mr. Art, I want to thank you for your commitment. I want the whole student life department, because we, as a student life and the faculty, try to work with making and stimulating our students. And so you're one student. There's no student side and academic side. It's just one you. And there's a totality of your learning that we want you to see. And I consider myself privileged to have brought you of this series. So thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Absolutely. Dr. Spellman, we thank you for partnering with Student Life and Activities on this endeavor. We appreciate all the great work you do for our students on campus and now off campus as we've switched to virtual online learning. This Egypt series was unbelievably informative. It was graphic, visual, and it was captivating, and it was entertaining. So we thank you for joining us. We hope that everybody at home had a wonderful time enjoying our trip to Egypt. We will be back next week with Dr. Spellman on a program about goal setting for all of our wonderful students in the Essex County College community. We hope that you're doing well. We hope that your family is doing well. Please be kind to each other and take care of yourselves. Take care.